Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're gonna be talking about Battlegrounds Season 23 Gladiator circuit. And let me tell you up front, it's gonna be a hell of a hard meta. Power gain is gonna be insane, and there are going to be a whole handful of defenders that are borderline unbeatable unless you have like the perfect counter. And that's the thing. Already hard defenders in this meta have significantly fewer counters than normal. It's going to be interesting to see the meta stabilize, but I'll tell you in advance. You will win a lot of matches by losing better. You will win a lot of matches by dealing 50% of opponent's health rather than 30% of opponent's health. That does happen a lot. When I look at my match history, I feel like I drafted and played extremely poorly, but somehow still won the match just because opponent died faster than I did in those fights. So needless to say, it's going to be extremely frustrating for a lot of players. That said, let's go over the meta itself and some of the findings that I have testing this out extensively in the off-season. So, defender buffs. Our fates are sealed. When the attacker activates special attack, both champions are passively fate sealed for 7.5 seconds. I actually wish this was longer, and I'll explain about it why. Buff 2, placebo. 40% chance to gain a placebo buff whenever striking the defender. Placebo buffs have no effect. So when you hit the opponent, you get placebo buffs on yourself. And then when you activate special attack, you nullify everything on both you and your opponent. Well, fate seal both champions. Additionally, there is Spite, which is going to be active almost always, aside from directly after the special attack. So, while the opponents have active buffs, this champion activates Power Flood out of Spite, granting 18% of power per second, and that power gain is huge, especially if you combine it with Mystic Dispersion or any other abilities that gain opponent power. And then we have Special 1, Special 2 bias, making them kind of a bit more friendly to our special attacks. Now, in general, I don't think this is a great meta. I think it could have been a great meta if this Fate Seal was longer, if the Spite wasn't necessarily as potent, or there was additional node that let you somehow power control even slightly. For instance, I don't know, opponent's special lock during their own special attacks or something, just to mitigate that Spite a little bit. But as it stands right now, as you imagine, against Mystic champions, you will often find yourself in a situation where they are at under a bar of power, you activate your special attack and they shoot up 3 bars of power because you can Fate Seal yourself, all the placebo buffs, everything else, and that's going to trigger Mystic Dispersion, and you're just going to eat special 3. So, what is great in this meta? Offensively, obviously buff immune champions such as Ant-Man, Red Guardian, Titania, Spider-Man 2099, all of them completely ignore the power gain aspects of this meta, and they will be widely used. So far for me personally, Red Guardian has been one of the MVPs. I've used Cassie Lang a lot as well, but she's a bit finicky to use with the AI issues. Spider-Ham is a beast in this meta. If you do have a rank 3, congratulations, he's an absolute monster, because obviously opponent gaining more power is very good for your power stings, and him being science champion, that doesn't disturb him one bit. There's Taunt in addition to help you with everything else. And on top of it all, if you do end up eating a level 3 from like a Mystic champion, then he does have significant special attack damage mitigation mechanics, which actually is viable. You can easily eat a special 3 in this meta and still win a lot of matches. Luke Cage is actually one of the scariest champions. I'm considering taking up my 6-star and ascending him because Luke Cage is an absolute monster in this meta, and that is to do with his exhaustion. His exhaustion absolutely nerfing opponent's power gains and reversing it, so it works like a charm. Luke Cage is a really, really solid option. Unironically, Jessica Jones is also a great two-way champion in this meta because, number one, obviously Jessica can be quite annoying to fight, especially if you give her more power, so she's gonna go unstoppable quicker. And then second ability that she has is, based upon her investigation, she reduces opponent's ability power rate quite significantly, up to 70% at max ramp up, which lets you deal with the power gain. Obviously, initially spam your level 1s. Fate Seal is also kind of helpful to you. So Jessica Jones has been quite decent offensively and defensively. Human Torch, just because you can kind of slow play him and then parry a lot, and then, you know, deal your damage over time, Nova Flames. Well, Cassie Lang, obviously buff immune. Mr. Negative, convert all of the placebo buffs into your energy. He's a very, very solid option. And then once you do get to your level 2, then you can quite easily, you know, reverse the power gain as well. So Mr. Negative is quite great. Morbius has been amazing for me, especially his interaction with the Fate Seal, because thanks to that, he can perform multiple glides in a row, dealing a lot of damage, ramps up quite quick, and has also power gain mitigation abilities. Photon is doing fairly decent. Red Guardian I mentioned before. Scorpion's alright, I'm not personally running him. But now we're going to go to the defensive side. There are champions that are basically an auto win, unless opponent has like one of the very few champions. Bullseye is one of those. Because Bullseye's special attacks take such a long time, and you can't hit him for a while after his special attack. Effectively, it's just almost never-ending special 1 spam, and you slowly die in the fight. So it's very rough going up against Bullseye. And also because he's a skilled champion, most of the science attackers have a terrible matchup against him. Killmonger is great as well, because if he has decently high sig, getting proper power control in this guy is quite hard, so reverb damage is just flying all across the wall. Tuma is a monster as well, because most of the counters Tuma has do not really have access to the incinerates or ability to reduce his hydration. Giving Tuma more power, more special attacks to throw, lets him ramp up and go unblockable in almost every single fight, at which point you are either forced to parry and take a lot more damage back, or, you know, you're kind of screwed. So yeah, Havoc. Havoc I'm mentioning here because of one reason only. He's by far the best onslaught counter that we have here, and he's also decent-ish to slow play in offense, because you can kind of slow play him. You get to one of your level 1s and then just parry heavy and bait out opponent's special attacks, and then, you know, eventually opponent dies due to his feedback damage. But yeah, he is kind of needed for onslaughts, because voila, Onslaught has a very similar case to Bullseye. Special attack animation takes such a long time that it's almost endless level 1 spam, and it's rough. Mr. Sinister, similar case. Like, I don't think he's nearly as bad as Onslaught, but the base principle is you can't let Mr. Sinister throw consecutive special 1s in a row, or you're gonna degen to death. And that's exactly the case. With giving him that much more power, it's just quite rough. Not to mention that most of the tech champions are not really the greatest for this meta. Domino plus extra power gain is, again, bad time. One of the few tech champions that seems to work decently well is Warlock, because of his power control. You do Fate Seal your own armor away, but it is what it is. Shuri works decent-ish, kind of. One of the best attackers in this meta, and this guy is an absolute MVP. Again, I would consider taking him to rank 6 as my 6 star, but I do have an unduped 7 star. Either way, I'm not doing it, because this is one of those champions I just banned on sight. One of the best 3 or 5 attackers for this meta, for sure. Rocket Raccoon has been surprisingly good. I took mine to rank 2, and he's been putting in work. And the reason why Rocket Raccoon is quite good, because he does have the power drain on his armor breaks. So you can activate that by heavy attack or a level 2. And also you can approach the tactic of spamming level 1s, because he has power control on his level 1. And if you spam your level 1s, you can be Fate Sealed a lot. So you can be like super aggressive with him. He's actually been doing a decent amount of work. Puncher 2099, also a fairly solid option, no buffs in his main kit, and then, you know, you reduce opponent's combat power rate. Yes, they will have the power gain from placebo, but less power overall, so he should be doing quite decently. Prowler, opponent empties their power bar once they use the special attack and are special locked for a brief moment afterwards, so that is super helpful. Null, one of the very few cosmic attackers that is somewhat viable in this meta still, because he's one of the very, very few cosmic champions that does not rely on buffs only buffs in his kit are from the Sig ability, and you can completely do without that unstoppable unblockable for a brief second. So Null is like one of the very few Cosmic champions that work. And obviously Serpent. Serpent has less counters than normal as well in this meta, and he's quite rough. It's basically Serpent with more power gain. On top of it all, he's himself Fate Seal immune, which ironically makes him one of the very few champions that you can kind of use offensively. I have actually used Serpent to take down Penny Parker, who is also a very tough defender in this meta, and Nick Fury as well, I think, in a pinch. But yeah, he's just a monster on defense now too. America Chavez, I would say the best offensive champion in this meta, thanks to her parallel dimension, the negative zone. You can invert opponent's power gain and effectively, you know, prevent them from throwing special attacks at all and completely utilize the nodes to your own benefit. That's super helpful. Spider-Man, this guy is also a bit of a beast. A lot of people have already ascended him. He's a bit finicky to ramp up, but once you do ramp him up and get to the 20 of the buffs, then you just activate special attack and opponent basically dies because you Fate Seal all of them at once. Destroyer, if awakened, is significantly tougher on defense. As a Mystic champion, first of all, you do need to worry about Mystic Dispersion, his own innate power gain, as well as the fact that you will be taking Rupture damage hitting him unless you're using a buff immune champion, because as you attack, you are gaining placebo buffs yourself, and then when struck, inflict an instant rupture, dealing 40% of the damage prevented by personal protection as physical damage to the max of over 3k damage. This rupture also destroys any indestructible or immortality debuff on the opponent. So basically, because you're getting placebo buffs on yourself, you're going to be fueling his protection and taking damage back. Now we have Mephisto, which is borderline infinite level 3s. Unless again you have like a buff immune champion or some excellent power control, you're just gonna be eating multiple level 3s in a fight with Mephisto. Longshot's kind of gnarly as well, because based on his Sig level, he has a chance to nullify all the buffs on opponent, replace it with bad karma, and not to mention that he has increased ability accuracy, which also interacts with the node. So basically every time you hit him, you're going to be gaining a placebo buff, which later will expire and feed Mystic Dispersion on Longshot, or let him nullify it and feed Mystic Dispersion instantly, ramping him up. So Longshot can also be absolutely evil, as well as Mojo. Like, if you don't have a buff immune champion against Mojo, and he enters his Stink Aura, or Anti-Life Field, then whenever you hit him, all the placebo buffs expire instantly. You get a degen, he gets a ton of power. So it's very, very, very nasty interaction. There are more. Enchantress is like an automatic loss in this meta as well. Enchantress is just like, you either have like a buff immune champion, like a Red Guardian, or you're just basically dead. That's about it. And this is my current Gladiator circuit deck. So I'm running Chavez, Atuma, Domino, Quicksilver. Worked quite decent with his Withers. Might take him out, we'll see. Sasquatch, Silk. And then we have Serpent, Morbius, Enchantress, Havoc, Warlock, Mole Man. He kind of is decent-ish. I'm not sure whether he's going to stay by the end. Onslaught, an absolute evil. Then we have Red Guardian, Kate, not the best for this meta, but there are hardly any good skill attackers, so she kind of goes in by default. And yeah, no, that's about it. And, you know, once you get that first level 1 off, you can kind of slow play with Kate, just making sure to punish their special attacks, and then you're still going to be dealing damage, so she's kind of decent. Then we have Mr. Sinister, Human Torch, might take the Torch out. Obviously, Rocket Raccoon, I already told, is working quite fine. Titania. Black Cat is decent-ish, because once you get that level 2 off, you can actually prevent the placebos from triggering. And yeah, that's my team so far. I'm actually gonna experiment a bit more with a handful of champions. The one matchup that you can use Kushala for as well is Serpent, because Serpent is Fate Seal immune. She actually can do Serpent, but in general she's obviously not the greatest for this meta. And yeah, a few more champs to test out and try out. Maybe Anti-Venom, maybe Absman. Fam could maybe be decent, but but this is going to be very, very frustrating meta. Hulk is good as well in this meta for sure. Right, so that is where we're at right now. Let me know how has been your experience if you have tested for this meta, or alternatively, good luck. Don't break your phone. See you soon. Bye-bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the